you've just got to be thinking about bringing your best, having a flow state in there. You can't think about, when you're in the ring, you don't want to be thinking, I need to do this, I need to do that. You want to be thinking, I've got to perform to the best of my ability here, which means I can't be overthinking. I've got to be in a state of almost emptiness, ready to react.
Yeah.
And just to the visual stimulus you see, I think I just put myself in that mind frame. On fight day, I was just zoned.
Right, next guest. Everybody knows, who's ever listened to my podcast, I love talking about business. And funny enough, when I'm talking about business, I always refer to boxing specifically. I mean, every sports star has the mentality of being a great business person because it's the will to win at the end of the day. But specifically boxing or fighters, I know I'm going to be a bit biased because I've had a few fights myself. I love doing the boxing training and I'm still doing it even at the age of nearly 35. But I love to interview people that are doing it now at a very, very high level. So the next guest I got, Harlem Eubank, just had a fight, which you won, undefeated, 11-0. Thank you very much for coming on my podcast, brother.
Thanks for having me, man.
No
Pleasure
problem.
to be here.
No problem. Right, where shall I start? I had your cousin on my podcast about a couple of months ago. And I mean, I think the for me anyway, being a boxing fan, the obvious thing is talk about your surname. I mean, that surname holds a lot of weight because when you say the surname Eubank, you consider that name as like a winner, someone that is dedicated, someone who's a fighter, someone who's a champion. So the question I actually asked Seb, but I'm going to ask you, having that name, did it shape your future? Did you know you were going to get into fighting or boxing? And did it hold a little bit of pressure? Because there's obviously the names that have all become world champions, and does it almost kind of force you to, I don't know, live up to that sort of expectation or not really? Don't you really consider that?
For me, from a young age, obviously knowing and understanding the success that my uncle Chris achieved, I always wanted to, strive, and being, passionate about sports myself and various different sports and martial arts at a young age, I always wanted to achieve elite success in a different sport or in a different practice or different combat, because I always felt like boxing it had already been done.
Yep.
And I first started off in karate to try and achieve that success, and did achieve a lot of success early on, and then went into football and achieved at that level, at that age of 10, 11 onto 16. I played for Brighton & Hove Albion Academy, so that was kind of one of the top teams I could play for at that age. So I've always had that urge to train, play at a very high level, to test myself to my maximum and see what I've got.
Yeah.
And then having started that combat journey at 7 years old in karate, and being very passionate about combat and martial arts and watching Bruce Lee films from 5 years old instead of cartoons. I then found boxing at age 15, and but couldn't take it up seriously because I was playing football at the time, and my football team was saying you can't do both, so I had to choose football. And at the age of 18, I was done with football. I'd fallen out of love with it, and I needed something. I always feel like I need that physical outlet,
Yeah.
And at the age of 18, when I'd lost the urge to play football, I took up boxing once again and ran with it. Fell in love with it again. And from that day, I was training 5 times a week,
Yeah.
and taking it seriously. And I understood at that point I was a late starter in boxing, picking it up at 18 really.
Did you have amateur fights?
Yeah, so I picked it up at 18 and I wanted to get going straight away because I knew it's going to be a crash course if I want to achieve in boxing. There's kids starting from 5 years old fighting from, 7, 8, and practicing their craft and learning from that age and picking up skills, from 5 years old. So I knew it was going to be a task to pick it up and achieve success. So I really wanted to put all my time into it and, make sure I get to the gym 4 or 5 times a week. And from the age of 18, I went straight into the amateurs. I knew that was kind of the place where you're going to have to test yourself most and where you'll pick up skills the quickest from challenging yourself. So
yeah,
I just dived straight in. I think I had 5 fights the first year, maybe 8 fights the next year, and over 4 or 5 years, I had 33 fights, and then switched to the pro ranks.
Yeah, nice stuff. And I'm going to ask you, mate, it might be a silly question, but what is your ambition with the boxing? I mean, obviously go all the way to the top. Yeah. How do you see the path unfolding?
I wanna get to the top. I want to fulfill my potential, and I feel like I've said it recently. I feel like I'm about 40% developed as a professional fighter, and I want to keep improving at the same rate that I have been. And with that, I think I can achieve world success. I know it's going to take many more years of refining and learning and perfecting the art form. But I think I see it as doable. I'm just kind of one fight at a time, but it is in the back of my head that I want to achieve such a high level of success in boxing.
Yeah. Well, so my trainer is a guy called Charlie B. He's been training me since, how long now? I'm 35, so coming up 35. It must be about 12 years now.
Really?
Yeah.
That's crazy. I didn't know you guys were training for
so
so long.
Yeah, for a long time. I mean, I've done the Queensbury League. Yeah. Last fight was last year. I'm planning to do a few more before I get to a bit too old. But Charlie used to train me when he used to own Like to Lift and Like to Box, which was just down the road from Boxing Booth. And there's a point to this story. So when I used to train with him back then, he used to do the strength and conditioning and also the boxing. He's always been a very, very good coach. But when he transitioned with Adam Booth and now at the Boxing Booth, I sort of saw the way he trained me, the style of it change.
Did it? Yeah.
And I actually really loved it. Loved the transition. So the question I want to ask you is, before you got to training with Charlie and also Boxing Booth, etc., what was that transition like, going from maybe a way you were training before and obviously winning fights, but now with Charlie, what's changed slightly?
Just I just think the awareness and the way he studies fights, and his ability to kind of relate technical and tactical things from certain fights, and he understands the technical game very well. His awareness is very, very good, and I just think that the training is very tailored and very technical as well. Me and Charlie have always done a lot of technical stuff to get together, and I've picked up a lot in the last 4 years. Yeah, for sure.
I've not been there. When I train, I'm normally down there in the morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like one of the first people in there because I've got to get into London for my day. But when I look on social media and Instagram, etc., it appears that there's a genuine kind of family, tight-knit group. There's obviously got Josh Kelly, yourself. I know Ryan Burnett used to be down there, former world champion, 2-time world champion. Shannon Courtney, Mick Conlon. There's a few others, obviously. And I'm not saying you all look the same in regards to your style, but you can tell that you've been trained down Boxing Booth. It's a bit like when I look at Vegas and I see the Mayweather camp. You can tell people have been training in the Mayweather camp. Is it really like that? Like a tight knit family, close, intimate kind of place to train together?
It is. It's a good group of people, great personalities, and we've all bonded, and that kind of shows in the gym setting and through the obviously social media that you see and pick up on. That it is that family type structure.
Now, how important is that? Like to have, bounce off each other with that positive energy.
Very, very important. You the way you learn when you're in a setting you enjoy is completely different. You look forward to being in the gym, and when you're in there, it's enjoyable, and you recept things differently when you're in that frame of mind, and it really helps you accelerate your learning because you're really excited to learn in that scenario. You look forward to being in there, and you look, when you leave, you're looking forward to the next day.
Yeah.
It really gives you a lot of purpose when you're going to a place that you enjoy being.
Yeah. So your last fight, I can't pronounce the guy's surname, but the last opponent, guy called Daniel
Egbenike.
Yes. So you're both undefeated. It was hyped up quite a lot. How was you feeling going into that fight? Now, obviously, I know you were gonna feel energized, ready, powerful, etc. I could just tell, but even when I saw you at Box Hill, you were sprinting up and down them hills, and I was thinking, this guy's a machine. But obviously, knowing that there was so much almost at stake, because I felt like personally, this is like that was like the line in the sand, and providing that you got over it, then you're going to go to bigger, better things, which you are. What was that like mentally going into that fight?
It was interesting. Because as a fighter, you can't be thinking, you can't have them thoughts in your head that everyone has from the outside, looking in, that, that this is the point where you need to push on and, put in a performance, and you've just got to be thinking about bringing your best and having a flow state in there. You can't think about, when you're in the ring, you don't want to be thinking, I need to do this, I need to do that. You want to be thinking, I've got to perform to the best of my ability here, which means I can't be overthinking. I've got to be in a state of almost emptiness, ready to react.
Yeah.
And just to the visual stimulus you see. And I think I just put myself in that mind frame. And I was on fight day, I was just zoned. And I done like a IFL, but we done it on the day of the weigh-in, which is obviously we done it on, I think it was the morning of the fight actually.
Okay.
Done at IFL, and I could just see in my face, like I was just talking rubbish, but I could just see and feel like I'm ready to fight now. I didn't want to talk. The time was done for talking, and like I could just see, this is fight time now. This isn't, talking's done. I'm not worried about talking. I'm zoned and I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
And I saw that, and I kind of thought, I'm probably not going to do, interviews on the day of the fight just because your head's in a different place.
Yeah.
You're just zoned, ready for combat.
Yeah.
You're ready for, the physical tests. And, that's where my full focus was come fight day.
Yeah. There's not many sports, bar probably UFC, where there is a real risk of something going wrong. It's not just about, let's say, maybe the perception of embarrassment if you lose, but more than that, which is the physical damage. And some people have ended up dying. I know you probably won't ever think about that as a fighter, because when I've done boxing, it's not at your level, but I never even considered that. It's only my missus that turns around to me and goes, do you know you could have died, or something like that. And I said, you just never consider it. But one thing I admire about especially Booth and obviously Charlie, but when I used to watch David Haye, when I used to watch George Groves was one of my favourite fighters to watch. I thought he had a great style. One thing I noticed about the fighters, even if they were winning or losing the fight, and I've seen it now flow through Charlie Beat Yourself and everybody else, it's the calmness. Knowing that something can go wrong, knowing that, you could be beaten 1 or 2 rounds and you got blood on your face, etc. It seems always to be a calmness. I mean, is that something that comes natural to you, or have you picked that up through the camp, through the boxing booth gym?
I think I've picked it up. I think they put you in scenarios that you're going to experience in the fight. And once you're in them in training, when it comes to the fight, you can be relaxed because you've seen it. You've seen them play out. If you get tagged, you've been tagged in training. You've been in that scenario. So they put you in them scenarios where, okay, if this is the maximum stress, when it comes to the fight, and the fight's 70% of that stress, you're gonna feel very relaxed in there. And I think it's the training methods of, you know, putting you in them stressful scenarios, putting you in the heat in training, and preparing you for the fight, which is, you know, a realistic war zone. So you've got to prepare for that in the gym, and the preparation is what brings the calmness on the night.
Yeah, and outside of boxing, then obviously I know you're still young and you're still developing, and obviously you've got so much to achieve, and no doubt you're going to get there over the next 5 or 10 years, no doubt. But then beyond boxing, like, is there plans to do other things in business? Is there investments that you want to go down? What is it kind of like your vision for the future?
A vision. I haven't gone into detail on what I want to do after. I know different kind of sectors that I'm interested in, and one is obviously nutrition.
Yeah.
And health. And obviously training and nutrition go hand in hand in achieving good health.
Yeah.
So they're two definite fields that I'm interested in. And also, you know, land and
property and stuff.
Yeah, but also just land, and I don't know, like I can see myself building like a sustainable, like,
ecosystem.
Yeah, like kind of land mass, or like I don't know, like you see them kind of like eco-friendly built houses off land. I can, like, a few things like that interest me. I haven't put too much kind of attention into them yet. Yeah, because they're still, you know, in the distance. But for sure, you know, health, fitness, and they're things that I'm really, really interested in.
Yeah. The reason why I said it is because off air, I sort of touched on this. You've obviously got the calmness, and then you also got the will to win. And I think these are two of the most important things. Oh, on top of that, working hard, and which you've got an unbelievable work rate. I think there are three things. There's obviously other characteristics that you need, but to transition into investing or into business more specifically is exactly what you need. And I just feel that fighters, if they can become British champion, European champion, world champion multiple times over, you can transition that into kind of anything you want. Yeah. I mean, I get from you, from watching you on your social media and just getting to know you a little bit, that you're a guy that sets goals as well. How important is it for you, and the advice to give to an audience, how important it is setting goals and working hard towards those goals?
It's very important. I started out in boxing writing down goals, and but I realized within the first 2 years, nothing in boxing works out how you plan it. Yeah, it's one of them sports where different things, different openings happen at different times. Sometimes you need to develop more and go back. It's very hard to set realistic goals in a sport that changes as much as boxing. You have to be ready and flowing and improving and ready at any time. And when I look back at the goals, you know, I wrote down when I first turned professional. I realized looking back, it's very, very unrealistic. Okay. Because turned professional, couldn't get a fight for 4 months, you know. Then I fought. Then, you know, there was other things going on. So it's about putting yourself in position to get the most out of it that you can. And really just enjoying the process now, okay. I think. So goals, but more so just putting yourself in the position to learn and keep developing. Yeah. The most value is how developed you are in the art form. Yeah. That's ultimately the value that you offer. Yeah. How much have you perfected your craft? Yeah. So my view is, let me perfect my craft as much as I can, and that will always hold the value, rather than setting, you know, I need to do this by this time, because it really doesn't work like that. You gotta flow in boxing and be ready and always improving. And when the opportunity arises, ready to go in that case.
Yeah. Well, I think what sort of resonated with me when you were saying that is setting goals is important. I always recommend, definitely in business, in sales, that's my background, and obviously sports, health, nutrition, etc., to have goals because you've got something to aim for. But sometimes when the goal becomes so important, you forget to enjoy the process and you forget to live in the moment. And I still struggle doing that because I get home sometimes. I've got a son who's just turned 2 years of age. I've got a great family life, but sometimes I'm there and I'm checking my phone, everything else, because I'm thinking about the next day or two in business. Now that's great. Yeah. But then also I'll be sitting there and thinking, what's happened after 2 hours? Like my son's been here, but I've not really engaged with him, which is bad. So it's trying to get that happy medium.
Exactly. And obviously that engagement can also help you in when you go back because you're more focused and more. So it's about, I like to float kind of goals, and be like, I'd like to achieve that. Let's see how this next, few months play out.
Yeah.
And I like to float it more than, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then when that doesn't happen, in the time frame, then you're battling yourself, whereas I've learned now to flow a little bit more and just enjoy the process because I've had a lot of great advice. And I've heard a lot of times from world champions, including Uncle Chris, saying that the most enjoyable part of achieving the success is the process that it took to get there.
Yeah.
So once you feel like once you've got the belt or the world championship belt that you worked so hard for, that's not the moment. That's not the happy moment that you felt like you was working for the multiple years that it took to get there.
Yeah.
The happiest moment is looking back. The happiest moment looking back is the process getting there.
The journey,
the journey.
Yeah.
So
I've heard it so many times where people end up getting a big house, nice car, they've bought a house on the beach, etc. And don't get me wrong, everyone enjoys it for a certain amount of time. Yeah. But really and truly, it was the challenge, it was a struggle, it was the fight in order to get there in the first place.
Exactly. And it's not that, and obviously life goes on, so that's not the end. You think that's the end goal, but it's not the end goal because there's things that happen after that and you go into your next challenges and your next goals and targets. So it's really about enjoying each goal you have, I think, and each target and each marker that you want to achieve. Enjoy that process to getting closer to it and achieving it.
Yeah. And so obviously we're all in a very weird year. 2020, we've been hit by this so-called coronavirus. Some people are, really into it. Some people not so into it. But regardless which side of the coin you're on, as a boxer and as a business person, we've had to adapt.
Yep.
And what I liked about what you said, and a lot of boxers say it, is you stay ready. You're always ready, always in peak condition, because when you get that call for an opportunity, rather than saying I need to get 6 weeks underneath my belt to get fight ready, you're already there. But how has this kind of lockdown coronavirus scenario affected you and boxing and everything, the opportunities? How's that kind of hit you? And also mentally, has it affected you or kind of not really?
No, I think I've seen a lot of people get more physically fit and healthy in this time. I've seen people working out outdoors more than ever. Parks and people running on the street has looked like it's grown massively. People are getting more active and more connected with their own health, I think. And I think that's been one of a really positive change that people have made during this time.
Yeah.
For me personally, obviously when gyms were closed, it was difficult. When they opened back up for elite athletes and I could start training again, it felt so good. I felt like Christmas had come early, And for me, getting back into the gym really started to enjoy my boxing again. And not that I'd ever stopped enjoying it. I was trying to train outdoors, but after 3-4 weeks of shadow boxing during lockdown outdoors, it got to a point where I was like, I just need a gym open again.
Yeah.
And when I got the call to say that elite athletes were allowed back in the gym, it was beautiful.
Yeah.
Got back to it, and within, it must have been 2 or 3 months later, I got a random text from Adam saying, "Do you want this fight in 2 or 3 weeks?" And I was like, it's come out of nowhere, but I was like, let's do it.
Yeah.
Straight away. And it was obviously an opponent that had success over me in the amateurs, but I knew that the developments I'd made, I'm a completely different fighter. So I was ready to go, and that opportunity came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And seized the opportunity, and then 3 months later, another undefeated opponent.
Yeah.
So it's all about developing the craft so that when it's time to go, you're ready to go. And that's how the end of 2020 has played out for me.
Yeah.
I could have not been training and, been focusing on other stuff, and I would have had no fights.
Yeah.
And wouldn't have developed as much as I had. So I feel like when it's meant to happen, it's meant to happen. And and the fights have arisen at the end of a tough year for everyone.
Yeah.
And it's set up my new year pretty perfectly in terms of I'm going to be very active next year, and the fights will be getting bigger and better, and going to keep progressing me in the right direction.
Yeah, solid stuff. So like, again, there's a couple of things you said there which I would like to touch on. So like, the coronavirus stroke lockdown scenario obviously made a lot of people, due to the media pushing it so hard, like quite negative, pessimistic, and basically full of excuses. And I've always said the same thing. No matter whether there's a recession, no matter whether there's a third world war, no matter whether there's a weird virus or the media, whatever, you've always got to look at you've always got to ask yourself this question: how can this serve me? Whatever's happening to me right now, which is out of my control, how can it serve me? And I do believe in positive energies. I know people talk about that all the time. They use it quite loosely. But I do honestly believe that if you go hard on yourself, life goes easy on you. And what I mean by that is exactly what you said there. During COVID and lockdown, gyms weren't open. So you could have easily said, well, I'm a pro athlete. I can only really train if I get into the gym, sparring with my peers and whoever else. But instead of that, you focus on yourself, and then out the blue, an opportunity comes up. And I don't think that's coincidence. I don't think that's sheer luck. I think you attract that into your space. And I think that happens in every walk of life. So staying prepared, oozing out that positivity and staying on your craft is just so key. It's
like during that whole lockdown process, the weather, we had some of the best weather I think we've ever had. It was beautiful weather, and when you wake up and you go outdoors, you can't not have a positive mind frame. You know, fresh air, sun's beaming, so it's you got to take that as a chance to kind of excel and just enjoy your time, rather than taking in all the negatives and all the kind of everyone's information they're pushing on you, and just take it in. It's a nice day. Yeah. We had about 6 weeks of full on holiday weather. Yeah. And I mean, I soaked in, I enjoyed it, and kept energized, kept my nutrition good, and stayed ready. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like me personally, this has been a very, very good year, certainly financially. I mean, other sides of the business, not as good. We adapted. We didn't do as many shows as we could have because we couldn't do it because of lockdown, etc. But what it allowed us to do is focus on our content, focus on our marketing strategy, and basically making sales and connecting good collectors to each other, which has been fantastic. And I honestly do think that some people are going to reflect over this year and thought, right, I didn't have the chance to go out clubbing or to the pub where I was going to be boozing or eating the wrong food. I had a chance to focus on myself. I had a chance to organise myself because I was indoors. I spent good quality time with my family. I got fitter. I learnt a new craft, whether that was a new language, play a new instrument. I honestly do feel that this could have been a year for a lot of people, a year of developing as an individual, rather than some people seeing it as. I mean, I see posts on Instagram where people say this has been a complete waste of the year, and I think, how sad is that though? If you really consider this as a waste, what does that really say to you? What does it say about you as a person, almost? You know?
Yeah, I think different people took different things from it. Some people went into themselves and done more work. Some people just took it as time to relax and chill and reflect as well. I think a lot of people realized during that time of being able to not focus on work and just focus on what they want to do with their time.
And what's important.
And they had a lot of time.
Yeah.
And how they want to use it. And I think after that, people kind of realized, okay, I don't need to be at work for 10 hours a day. I want to create work around a balanced lifestyle that I enjoy and have spare time to have my own headspace and do what I want to do, whether read, chill. I think people realized that life wasn't just about work. And it was about living and creating a work lifestyle that they enjoyed and where they can enjoy their time whilst working. And I think people kind of redesigned and reshaped their work schedule a lot in that lockdown process, so that when they went back, they almost designed a more efficient work lifestyle.
Definitely. So going a bit more back to your boxing, there was a chap that a few fights ago at your call, you absolutely done him with this left hook, and I know the shot because one, I've watched you do it multiple times, but also Charlie's made me fucking drill this shot so many times myself. It's that dip, dump, boom, and one of them ones. I hope I perfected that right. And when it went down and it come over, I was like, that is like a golden punch. Going back to that fight, I mean, what was the guy's name? I forgot his name now. In your call,
I'd say it's a difficult name. It will come back to me.
All right. So like repetition then of those shots, drills in the gym, like how important are they? Even like, I'm gonna be honest, sometimes when Charlie makes me do it over and over again, I'm like, why are we doing it again? But you realise in the heat of the moment of a intense fight and there's a lot of pressure, that's when you pull out the bag. So the repetition in the gym, how important is it to pull off those things in a fight?
Repetition is essential. What you're doing when you repeat something is you're training your nervous system to react in that fashion. So you're connecting the nerve connections to react when you see that stimulus in that fashion. So you want to repeat and repeat and repeat so that it's not you thinking about the shot, it's your body reacting to the stimulus in that way because you've drilled it so many times that your nervous system recognizes that as the first response to go to.
Yeah.
So the drilling of the combination is essential. And
because even Seb on the podcast, he said, I like what Charlie Beat's been doing for Harlem. I think he might even reference that punch.
Yeah.
And he said he's clearly developing a lot more power. And as he grows older and gets a lot more stronger, even more brutal knockouts are going to come. Would you say, though, that punch was more power? Was it perfectly timed?
It was timing. Yeah. There was I didn't feel the shot. It was the fact that it's about loading it from the leg. And I've got big legs. So when I generate my power from the legs, it hits different. And I landed the shot maybe four or five times before that shot landed. And he didn't respect it. Because I wasn't planted, I was just, playing with it. And then he obviously thought, because I was showing it to him, he obviously thought, I'll take that and walk through it and lunge him with my shot. But when he did that, I was planted, so I was ready to throw the shot with the leg, with the weight transitioning from the toe all the way up the leg to the hip. And that was the only shot I threw where I'd connected from the leg. So that's why the power was different. And I didn't feel the shot. It went straight through. And I was kind of like, almost like, did I hit him? Did I not? And as I see him kind of falling, I walked off, and I didn't realize the damage until I looked back. But it's all about drilling that technique, because when he was coming in, I wasn't thinking, what's the technique of this left hook, dip, throw. I was thinking, waiting for his shot, ready to react. And the reaction was the correct load, because I'd practiced it so many times before. So that was the nervous system firing to him lunging in with the right hand.
Yeah. So there's strength and conditioning. There's obviously the sparring. There is the running outside, the box hill running and stuff like that. There's pad work. What would you say is give like the audience a small little taste of what you do, Harlem Eubank, day to day, either leading up to a fight or when you're just ticking over. And what would you say is the favourite aspect of your boxing training? My favourite, not that I'm the best at it, but for some reason, I just love the sparring. Not really into pads so much, maybe because I've been doing it for so long, since I was 14 years of age. But I like sparring because pads can be a little bit repetitive, and I understand why you need to do it, but sparring never is, because even if you're sparring the same person, no one shot is the same, and they might be angry that day, so they might be attacking you quite hard, or they might be fairly chilled out, and it might be a bit more relaxing. So I do like the sparring quite a lot, and I feel when you pull off something, it gives you that endorphin rush, like wow, I've just pulled something off. And I've got to be honest, when I'm a bit stressed and I get hit, it's almost like a nice release as well. It's weird psychology.
It's meant to be the hitting that's the release, not the getting hit.
Well, both. I mean, sometimes I'm so angry and someone punches me and I'm like, I sort of needed to be punched. Weird, really weird. But anyway, I wouldn't recommend that to anyone. So what's your routine like, and like what is your favourite aspects of boxing training?
My routine, training 2 to 3 hours a day in the mornings, and then
trained already this morning, didn't you?
Yeah, trained already this morning and come up to see. So and then it's a run in the evening, and that's pretty much repeated through the week. And I sometimes add my own sessions in as well. So there's 2 kind of solid sessions per day. The main one being the 2 to 3 hour boxing, and that's my favorite. The technique work is what I look forward to most, because I enjoy the moments where something clicks that you've struggled with. You might struggle with something for months, and suddenly the way it's said or the way it's shown, or you'll see something where you can connect it with your own body. It's easy to see it and explain how it's done, but then actually doing it is a lot harder, especially doing it in a stressful scenario whilst you've got danger coming at you. So when something clicks for me, that's really the moment that I'm training for. That's the moment that I put the work in for, so that you get that click. And then it's developing that into, okay, so I've done that on the pads, now let me try it in sparring. And when it works in sparring, then you really know you're starting to understand it. So for me, it's the technique sessions that I look forward to the most. They're my favorite, when really learning the craft, and then moments where understanding clicks. And it's hard to explain, but you can only feel it. It's feeling and understanding how it's done, and then moments are what progress you to the next level. Yeah,
nice. You're in a great stable, so like your sparring must be phenomenal. I know you must bring other people in, and you go to other gyms to spar. Can you mention any names who's really good? Like you like when you spar them, you think that's really, really tough, or people that you learn off. Is there anyone that you thought over the years, like, what, that person's been really good for me to spar against?
I think Michael and Josh.
Yeah.
I think luckily I'm in the middle, them two weight wise. Yeah. So I get to learn from both of them. And Michael was so clever, very, very sharp, punishing mentality. But when he's in with someone heavier, he'll just take all your attributes away from you. So it's very difficult to hit him. And he does clever things that just make you look stupid. If you get wound up, or you want to dive in with shots, he knows just how to make you look silly and and punish you. Being a lighter guy as well, very, very smart. And Josh, very, very tricky.
Head movement.
Yeah, difficult to hit. And if you by chance catch him, he's ready to punish you and up it on you, and take you to deep waters. So them two, I've learned so much of, and being around them and seeing their mentality as well. I would definitely say it's that both of them have rubbed off on me a lot over the last few years.
Yeah. Well, even when I watch you drill on the pads on the social media, and Josh Kelly and all of you, to be honest, it's like you said. There's this thing that Charlie gets me to do, and I'm not a pro athlete, so I'm not doing it as much as you guys, and I'm not drilling it as much as you guys, and I'm not dedicated as much as you guys. But it takes me a while to get doing it, and even still, when I get it, it's not that smooth, maybe. But when I watch you lot, it's almost like bang! It just happens. It's just like you're breathing and driving a car without thinking about changing the gear.
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't come. The job is to make it look like that. The truth is, it doesn't come like that. That's the repetitions.
Yeah,
and it takes time to smooth out and iron out the creases. Mm-hmm. But the job is to make it look that smooth in practice and in sparring, and eventually in the fight.
Yeah.
But in making it look smooth, there's a long process of refining.
Yeah.
Sure.
Either in boxing or outside of boxing, is there anyone who's like really inspired you, thinking, you know what, this person's educated me, inspired me, and I kind of not want to be like them, but take the best bit from them? Is there anyone that is giving you that kind of inspiration?
A lot of people I've been around have given me that inspiration and motivation. Obviously, seeing what my uncle did in boxing and watching that, because I wasn't around at the time to go and watch the fights. It was before my time, so watching it back, it's just the energy is just incredible, and the skills that he picked up and mastered, and it took him a lot of time and effort to do them things, to make them look smooth and and effortless, like we said before. But you see that you see the finished product, and it's incredible. And then seeing Junior, seeing him actually pick it up and run with it, was because I could actually see the process then of, okay, so you're here and you took step by step to get here. It's more realistic when you see, okay, so obviously senior, you see the finished product, but you don't see but Junior, I got to see the kind of building process, which was motivational for me, because it was like, okay, it is possible to try and replicate. And then obviously being around Adam and the guys in the gym, it's more motivation, more wisdom, more understanding of the game, and just soaking it all in. It's been a beautiful process so far. Yeah,
good stuff. So the last part of our interview, I want to talk to you about the nutrition, because I've said this multiple times. I am not fully plant-based. I'm pescatarian, and I made a transition nearly 2 years ago. It's actually going to be, the anniversary of it is on New Year's.
Oh, okay. So is that the 2 or the 3 year anniversary? 2 year
will be.
Okay.
So basically 2 years ago, we had our last meal, which was a shepherd's pie. I remember it. Had a bottle of red wine.
Was it
shepherd's
good?
pie. It was really nice, man. I made it myself. It was incredible.
Lovely.
Mince beef.
You're a good chef.
Do you know what? I wouldn't say I'm good, but I picked up my wife. She's pretty good, and she's teached me over time. She's had a lot of patience with me. And anyway, we made it, and we said, look, because we was already kind of transitioning. We stopped eating meat in the week. Then we was doing it once on the weekend, and then we kind of just sort of like phased it out. So look, we're gonna have this one. Unless I always do, if I'm fighting or not, no drinking for the first 3 months of the year. I like a red wine, I've got to admit. And we said, well, why don't we just do no meat for 3 months? Let's see how we get on. 3 months went by, and it was so easy. I was like, don't really miss it. And now we have fish maybe twice a week. But so most of my meals is fruit and veg. I mean, there was a little hack that I discovered by complete chance, and it was because of my boxing fight last year. So before that boxing fight. My last fight before that was in 2013 on the Queensberry League. I lost it. And my mentality is I'm never going to leave a sport on a loss. I need to come back. But it took me 6 years to come back.
Really?
And I had to get back down to 73 kilo. And I was 73 kilo 6 years ago. And I'm thinking, how am I going to get down to that?
What did you go up to?
I think I was heaviest, like 81, 82 maybe. But so I just started eating soup, right? That was all I was eating. I was eating a bowl of fruit, soup. I wasn't eating in the morning. I was having cold pressed juices, which I still do today. And I was having a few soups. And I was basically on a liquid diet. And the weight just fell off me. And for the first 2 weeks of sparring, I remember Charlie turned around to me and said, have you changed your diet? And I went, yeah, it's soup. He said, oh, like, maybe you're not getting enough like solids in you or whatever. But then after 2 weeks, my body adjusted. And the reason why I mention this story is because there's such a misconception, I feel, that you need to have, your steaks, you need to have this and need to have that, because otherwise you're not going to get the protein, you're not going to be strong, you're not going to be durable, etc. Well, I know I'm not a pro athlete, but I still fought at 33 years of age. Was it 33, 34 years of age? And I still had to fight a guy who was 26 years of age and someone that was active and I wasn't active. And I basically done it on soup. Basically done it on soup and no meat whatsoever. And I felt very strong. I felt very durable and I could have gone on. So the question I wanted to ask you, because I've recently interviewed Bryant Jennings. I've interviewed your cousin, Seb, who is predominantly, I think, plant. Is he completely?
Predominantly,
I've interviewed a few people now who are plant-based raw vegans. How did you start that transition? And when did it start?
For me, I think it started when I was about 18. I started to become more aware of...
You're 24 now, yeah?
I'm 26.
26, okay.
So for me, it started at 18. I started to become more aware of my surroundings, certain things which I thought were right or didn't think were right. I started to form my own opinions on a lot more things around me that I was kind of observing and soaking in. And I felt like nutrition, especially, was one of the things that you can have the most impact on, in terms of, there's a lot of things that are out of your control in terms of what you can immediately affect. But nutrition is one of them things that, nutrition and health is one of them things that you can turn like that. You can start putting good things in, and it's one of the main things you can have an immediate effect on. So at that point for me, I started to kind of transition more to like an alkaline diet, but I took it over stages. I didn't just cut out everything at once. I started cutting out different meats first. So red meat was first to go, then followed by eggs and
chicken and white meat.
Or eggs and milk to start with, like milk as in like cereal and stuff like that. But then I think the last things was like chicken, but I'd never cook it. It was just eating out and the convenience of, I don't know, getting a jerk chicken wrap or whatever. And the last things to go for me was like chicken when I bought buying it out, and chocolate and like dairy products in other stuff like bread, pastries, things like that. So it was a process of cutting things out slowly, and then after, for maybe from 18 to 21 was that 3-year kind of period of weaning off certain things and cutting out as I learn further, because you see about eggs but you don't realize, the effect they have until you're presented with it in detail, visually and in terms of private studies and things like this. So
was it a combination of between like for me it was a double-edged sword? It was one, I didn't like the fact that animals are suffering, and it doesn't really matter how the media or how anyone portrays it, they are fucking suffering. There's no doubt. You can't feed the whole entire world milk by naturally allowing cows to impregnate each other. They have to force them to get impregnated, and that cow's been impregnated 10 times over. Exactly. And these are things that we turn a blind eye to. Then also the slaughterhouses, etc. Listen, if a cow is raised and there's natural life and everything happens and then they get slaughtered, I can sort of see where you're coming from. but that's not the reality. So that was one side of it for me. The other side of it is learning the difference between alkaline and acidicness in your blood, having your body inflamed. And a lot of these injuries and a lot of the problems that people experience later on in life, like the heart attacks, like the cancers, like the Alzheimer's, like all this kind of stuff, a lot of it has to do with the stuff we're putting in your body. Yeah, so was it those two things?
100%. It was, originally it was seeing a lot of Dr. Sebi stuff, watching a lot of kind of seminars online, and then purchasing books and related to health and disease of the body and how to produce health in the body. And it was kind of a process of seeing, looking at the details and then trying it for myself. And like you say, the alkaline and the acidic, like acidity is a breeding ground for dis-ease in the body. So it's knowing that it's what foods are acidic and what effect do they then have on the body, and how do they break down in the body, and understanding that more so definitely had an effect on transitioning to more alkaline foods. Then obviously paired with that is the ethical side of things. And for me personally, I wouldn't kill an animal to eat it. Like I said, when I did eat meat, it was a case of I just grab it when it was out. I wouldn't even buy a raw piece of meat or
and cook
animal
it yourself. Yeah,
or buy a raw animal and cook it myself, because that would be a weird process for me. So to actually then take it further and kill an animal to eat, I wouldn't personally do that.
No.
That's my ethical stance or moral stance on that, in terms of what I eat. Obviously, everyone has their own moral
compass and
compass, moral code, and moral responsibility. And for me personally, I wouldn't do that. So it makes sense, the nutritional side of things as well as the ethical side of things go hand in hand.
And how do you feel then, because I was speaking to Brian Jennings, and what I love about him, he's also a pro boxer, but he's a fucking heavyweight. He's a massive guy, and he redefines everything that people were saying, because it was like, you can't be that big and live a natural life and not eating steaks and protein, etc. But he does it. He's doing it now. He's been just sparring Joshua for his up and coming fight this weekend. The guy's no joke. He's a powerhouse. But let's say someone who's in a lighter division, I think your super lightweight division. How is your like energy because of the food, like your nutrition now? And what type of things do you consume?
I think my energy is great. It's kind of known that I can really bring the energy in the gym, in sparring, and I can maintain a high energy pace. And the main task is getting me to slow down. So energy wise, I'm more than equipped on my diet. And I like to eat whole food plant-based diet. So that consists of grains, nuts, pulses, loads of veg, loads of fruit, and better grains as well. So obviously I try not to consume things like white rice, and I'd opt for things like quinoa, bulgur wheat, wild rice instead. These are more original grains and more alkaline rich.
Yeah. And you try and focus, because I've learnt as well, like when I first heard about vegetarians and then vegans, this is like years ago, I'm like, what? No, it doesn't make any sense. And then I started understanding it. But then I used to affiliate that word vegan as basically healthy. But I think there's a guy that you even know, a guy called Tyson from Alkaline Humanism on.
Oh yeah, I've seen his page. Yeah.
And I know Seb's been speaking to him. I've spoken to him a few times. And there's another guy called Coop DC.
Yeah, I know Coop.
He's been on my podcast twice now.
Really?
I interviewed.
Has he?
Yeah.
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, twice. Yeah, I done one before my last fight, I trained with him and we done a podcast. And then second time around, we done an interview in a vegan restaurant.
Yeah, because he's a good guy, he knows his stuff.
Oh, he's powerful. And anyway, I had the misconception that it was vegan means health. And what these guys have taught me is, listen, there might be the moral side if you're vegan and you're not consuming animal products. That's great, really good. But you can still have a lot of vegan junk food. Yeah. And they said you need to focus on raw stuff, which is whole.
Yeah.
So the cold pressed juicing I have in the morning, I just think it's one of the best things I can consume. And eating things as they are, rather than heating it up, destroying it, cutting it up, and then turn it into something else.
Exactly. Eat it how it's meant to be eaten, how it's presented by nature. That's how it's intended to be eaten.
Yeah.
So it's not up to humans to try and change everything from its natural form. The healthiest you can be is consuming things in their natural form, and being as close to nature as you can, meaning fresh air, barefoot if you can walk barefoot for certain periods,
like earth and ground yourself almost.
It's the closer you put yourself to nature, the healthier you're going to be in this environment.
Yeah, so important. Where can people find you if they want to follow you, mate?
You'll find me on Instagram, Facebook and Twitter, Harlem Eubank, straight through. And keep up to date with my training, my nutritional lifestyle, and future fights that should be coming up. Should have a busy year of fights next year, so I'm really looking forward to that.
Good man. Right, the last thing I want to ask you is, I come up with a quote which is called "Be happy, never content." I developed it when I started my own sales company many years ago. It was to get into the mindset of the salespeople to perform at their best ever level. Very, very similar to boxing. Hence why I always say there's a relationship between boxers, fighters, athletes, and also business people or salespeople, because you either win or you lose. You either make a sale or you don't make a sale. There's no in between. And the same as boxing.
Yeah.
If I were to ask you the interpretation of "be happy, never content," what does that mean to you?
Well, I see content as happy.
Okay.
As well. So I see content as you're happy with your surroundings. You're content with, because there's different, like happiness, I believe also is being content.
Yeah.
So I guess it kind of sounds like you want to push past being content with what you have and achieve more. Mm-hmm. So I would say that's what it means to me. But also, I think content is being happy with your surroundings.
Yeah, good man. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast, mate.
Quality, Steve.
Hopefully, I'll see you at the Box Hill this Saturday.
Hey, let's get it, man.
7 o'clock in the morning, freezing our ass off.
I'm ready.
Nice one. All right, thank you very much. And everyone subscribe to my YouTube, also my podcast, and make a comment on this. And I hope you get a lot of inspiration, motivation, and an education from this particular episode. Nice one. Be happy, never content.